Hello guys, I will introduce you to the 8 cybersecurity, ethical hacking, or pentesting tips. So first of all will be programming. So programming is very important to modify code, build software, or do website development. That's very important to know. And the second will be systems. You will need to know like how the graphical interface interacts with the hardware inside the physical layer, and also um, the kernels which interconnects both of them together. So you guys will need to know how systems work overall. And the third will be terminology. You guys will need to know how command line or terminals of the different kind of systems will work, as you can do more advanced tasks and also automate stuff with scripting languages on it. And the fourth will be networking. Networking will be very important as well, because you guys will need to understand how like traffic or packets get sent or received inside the network. And the fifth will be reverse engineering. Reverse engineering is very important as well, because you guys will then understand how code is decompiled or compiled, or how overall like games can be patched, cracked, or overall how you can like develop exploits for specific systems. It's very important to know that. Sixth will be hardwares, as the hardwares are the components which power on our whole system, and everything else. It will also need electricity, so hardware is like the base where everything gets turned on. The seventh is like the cryptography, so you guys will need to understand the encryption, decryption, hash functions, or overall the secure communications, and how the keys are interchanged or used in the communications of like websites or messaging platforms and so on. The eighth will be social engineering. It has to do a lot with dark psychology and manipulating the target or victim to do specific tasks or click on specific things, like for example, phishing attacks on SMS or email attacks, where the victim will click on a link from a trusted source, but actually the malicious actor will send. So those eight like tips are very important to know in the IT, cybersecurity career world. And also in the next clips, I will give you guys a deeper explanation about these specific tips. First off will be programming. You guys will need to understand how programming works on a deeper level. So for application software languages, like programming apps and so on, these languages are used. C, C++ for kernel exploit development, memory manipulation, and high-level software programming. Python and Ruby for creating universal exploits, hacking tools, or scripts. Java and Kotlin for programming Android applications. Swift, Objective-C for programming Apple systems like iOS systems or Mac OS X systems. And the website languages will be for front end, like for the presentation layer that you guys see on the web page, which are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And on the backend, that like what runs on the web service or like on the backend web server, are like these languages: Django, Ruby on Rails, NPM. And these are like the database languages, where all the data gets saved or stored, where you guys configure. One is called PHP, and then there's the SQL data structure, which is actually used like 90% of the time for database programming overall. Um, so for the materials for learning it will be on this site, and you guys can get a deeper understanding about it on this website and learn it. So the second will be to learn operating systems overall. So the operating systems and kernels that exist will be the Windows system, NT, Mac OS X, iOS, Apple system, kernel X and U, and the Android system, kernel LTS, the Linux system, it's like a Unix-like kernel, and the Unix kernel system or Unix system is like the mother of most system kernels. So most operating systems have gotten the idea from the Unix system. And also down here is like how the systems work. So basically software is like the graphical interface that you guys can see on the screen. And the hardware is like the electrical turned on components inside your computer. And the kernel basically interconnects the graphical interface and software applications and processes and everything together with the hardware, and they interconnect like in this kind of way. So that's how it basically works. That's how systems basically work. And for more materials, you guys can go to this website to learn more deeply about it. So the third one will be to learn terminology, or how terminals in different kind of systems work. So those are like the terminals in different systems. On the Windows, one is named CMD, another one is PowerShell, and another one is VMIC. And on the Linux system, there are like the bash sh terminals. And also on the Mac OS X Apple system, there are like XSH and bash terminals. So those are the common terminals used in that kind of systems. And the scripting languages for automations which you guys can use, and some of them which are integrated in the terminals themselves or the command line. On the Windows will be Bash, PowerShell, and VB script, also called Visual Basic. Sorry. And on the Linux system, what are like common will be Bash, Perl, Awk, Z. And on the Mac OS X Apple systems, it will be Bash, XSH, AppleScript, Python, Ruby, which are by default in the environment. So those are like the scripting languages for automation through the terminal, and also the terminal languages. And also there are more materials here on these websites where you guys can learn. The first one here will be how to learn the terminals, how to understand it. And the second one here will be to learn the scripting languages, how the scripting languages work. So the fourth one will be networking. Networking is one of the most important aspects in cybersecurity and hacking overall. So the networking types that exist are, for example, LAN, local area networks, the commonly used Wi-Fi, or there's also the public internet, or the internet where you guys can externally connect to other people on the internet. Those are called wide area networks. And then there's also mobile data networks, like for example GSM, 2G, TDMA 200, UMTS, VCDMA on 3G, LTE, WiMAX on 4G, NR 5G. Then there's also networking protocols like the VPN, the wireless personal area networks. They are usually used for Bluetooth, infrared, and Zigbee connection, like remote connection. And there's also like wire networks, like internet cables that can be connected from the router to your system. And then there's also SANS, CAT, V, DSL cable connection, T1, E1. So those are like everything that are wired or connected by cables. And then there's also like RF, radio frequency networks. So radio frequency is commonly used, for example, in all like in a very universal aspect of many kind of electrical devices. For example, the key fob, when you turn on the car, it uses also the RF frequency basically. And also, for example, garage doors that have remote connection, they will also use RF. And then there's many other things that also use RF. So those are the common network types that I have typed in for you guys. And for learning more, you guys could go to this website here to learn the fundamentals. And also there is a tool called Wireshark where you can sniff all universal kind of networking traffic. And you guys will also need specialized hardware or configuration to sniff these specific networking types, but you guys can sniff these types in all kind of ways if you guys know how to set it up. So the fifth one will be reverse engineering. Reverse engineering is a very special and interesting topic. What you can do with reverse engineering, you guys can manipulate low-level memory in like with the assembly code in the lower structured systems. Like, you know, you guys can see the code where the hardware and the graphical interface interconnects, and you guys will need to learn the assembly language to understand everything. And also you guys can modify application like app code or decompile application code or reconstruct all the code or like the source code that the developer has written for the software or application. And you guys can also crack application licenses and product keys to get it for free if you guys know how to manipulate and reassemble the code. And you guys can also manipulate games to cheat in games. And there are also ways to actually exploit systems to actually find a vulnerability in it. And then from there on, craft exploits. So the reverse engineering tools will be x64 DPG, and then there's another one called IDA, and there's another one which got created by NSA called G-Hydra. And there's another tool also called GDB, so you guys can use this also for Linux and different kind of systems. And then there's also Frida, which is mostly commonly used for Android and iPhone systems to actually reverse engineer them after you have jailbroken it. So the reverse engineering materials that you guys can learn is from this website. This website explains very well how the registers, memory, assembly code, and everything works. And you guys can also read here upon the architecture of the systems as how the assembly code also work and so on. The third one here, you guys can read about the memory management and how the assembly instructions overall in the memory interconnects and like interwork together, and overall how everything works in an understandable manner. The sixth ones will be hardware, so those are all the components, the physical components which are turned on by electricity, and like where you guys power on the devices or systems. So the motherboard is like the hardware components. The motherboard is like the base of all the hardwares that are interconnected inside. So that's where all the hardware components basically inside. So the RAM, random access memory, RAM is a fast and temporary storage in a computer that helps it run programs and store data while it's turned on. The more RAM you have, the more power your system will also have, and you can turn on many different kind of tasks on the system, and it will also make your computer faster. So the same will also apply to CPU, the central processing unit, the brain of the computer. It performs the majority of the computer's calculation, executes instruction from software programs. So it calculates a lot of mathematical things, so overall instructions on your system, and it in a very high level CPU will also help a lot for making your computer much faster and have a better speed. And the GPU is mostly used, like a graphics processing unit, is mostly used to render textures, like playing games, watching videos, displaying like images, and so on. So those are like for the graphics on your system, on your graphical interface, that you can even see all the textures running on it. And the NIC network interface card is used to connect to the Wi-Fi network or internet. So those are like the wireless card, Wi-Fi card, or it could also be like a wireless external USB adapter. Overall, just to connect to the internet. And then there's also the hard drives, which are the HDD, SSD, NVMe SSD. So SSD is faster than HDD. The NFMe SSD is even faster than the SSD. those are like used to store data, or are also known as storage spaces. So that's where all the files, documents, uh, everything that you save on your system is stored. And there are also like system tools for looking at the hardware or diagnosing it. On Windows, it will be the device manager. The Mac OS X terminal it's called System Profiler. For the Linux terminal, it's called LSHV. And the materials to learn it more deeply and understand it better will be this website. 7 will be cryptography, so it has to do everything with like securing or encrypting data files, uh, networks, website, and so on. And the encryption types that will exist will be the symmetric encryption, hybrid encryption, and hash functions. And also the transport layer security and the secure circuit layer are commonly used for website encryption. So those are like the protocols to encrypt the communication between websites. As you guys can see on the link URL, sometimes it looks like HTTPS. So HTTPS is actually interact with the TLS and SSL. So those are the protocols which can be used to secure your website. And then there's also the IPsec inter-protocol security. So IPsec is commonly used in virtual private networks or VPN, where you guys connect and change your IP addresses. So those are like the protocols encryption types. And if you guys want to know more about this specific encryption types, you guys can look at the materials here. And also on this website, you guys will get a demo explanation about it. And these are like the cryptographic tools or online websites where you guys can basically like encrypt your files, encrypt your website, or like encrypt like network communication. So the first one will be OpenSSL on this website. Second one will be sign tool, so you guys can sign like software and so on with like certificates. And this is like commonly used. The OpenSSL commonly used for like making private keys or encryption keys, and then basically you guys can sign with the sign tool or other different specific tools. And this is like a website for converting hash values. So hash values are like values. For example, you can convert a text, let's say for example hello text, to a hash value that looks differently depending on what kind of hash protocol or algorithm you guys will use. And this tool is the YARN signer. With YARN signer, you guys can actually sign APK like APK extensions like Android file extensions and so on. So those are the common tools you guys can use. And again, if you guys want to learn more, these websites will help you guys to understand the fundamentals a lot. Number 8, and also the last one, social engineering, is commonly used like to manipulate or make the victims click on specific stuff, or overall to like it's said social engineering in a negative dark psychological way. So the social engineering techniques which exist will be, for example, phishing, which is redirect victims to fake pages and like steal the password and credentials. Spear phishing is the same, but it's more specialized and advanced, and it's used to target victims more in a specific, smarter way. And phishing is usually used to make a phone call or call manipulation of victims to gain access to private data or sensitive data. A pretexting is when someone tricks you into giving them private information by pretending to be someone they are not. So pretexting is like you pretend to be some other person that the victim trusts, and by that way you will manipulate the victim that they will give you sensitive data or access to anything. Then there's also like piggybacking. Piggybacking is when unauthorized people get into restricted areas by following behind authorized individuals. So piggybacking is like also called tailgating is used to when for example you will do physical pen testing. You will go into a apartment building or any building and then sneak in and follow like an authorized individual and gain unprivileged access into the security rooms or anything in this kind of way. And then there's also like scareware. Scareware deceives users into casing fake antivirus software or sharing personal information by falsely claiming the computer is infected. So scareware is can be malware or any kind of like pop-ups on your web browser that will try to scare the victim, that they will get scared and then download antivirus software or download anything malicious, and they could also then by that get infected. And then there's also baiting, examples like leaving USB inside the plug-in or charging cables or any plug-in devices somewhere to exploit victim systems. So hackers can, for example, make any kind of plugins or find any kind of ways to make the victim use an infected malicious device that they will plug in into the systems, and overall the victim will get baited by this way and they might get infected or hacked. So those are like the ways social engineering with baiting. So the tools which are commonly used to do social engineering attacks are, for example, social engineering toolkit set on this website. It's default on Kali Linux. And there's also social phish for phishing fake page attacks on this website. And there's also BeefXSS for infecting browsers remotely and locally on this website. And then there's also Wi-Fi Fisher. This is used to actually create a malicious evil twin access point to hack wireless routers or overall Wi-Fi's. And also the materials that you guys can learn from is from this website. So those are the types of social engineering attacks more specifically. And the second one will be the top 5 new social engineering attacks 2023. The third one will be to learn about dark psychology or how overall psychology work in a darker manner. So if this video helped you guys out and got you guys into a beginner starting way into the cyber security, ethical hacking, or pen testing career, or overall IT career to understand the fundamentals, you guys can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more advanced and beginner videos that I will bring out in the future. Thanks for watching.